Providing leadership that improves lives and creates lasting community change by mobilizing the community to give, advocate, and volunteer is what the United Way Suncoast does. They fight for the education and financial stability of every person in the community they serve. Learn how you can support the United Way Suncoast next on Bayside. Good morning and welcome to Bayside. I'm your host, Shelley Sanders. We are talking all about the United Way Suncoast. And without further ado, I can't think of a better person to talk to than the CEO herself, Jessica Muroff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's so nice to have you here. I know, I doubt that there's a person on the planet that has not heard, at least heard of the United Way or can think of your logo. Anybody that watches football has certainly seen it.
Sure thing.
So I don't know that everyone knows exactly what you do. Now I know I alluded to some of it in the open, but from your perspective, let's talk basic and broad in the beginning. What exactly is it that the United Way is all about in the most simplest terms, if you could sum it up like an elevator speech?
Sure thing. That's easy to do. We've been in this community for over 100 years, so that's where you can certainly understand and know United Way and what we do. But in its most simplest terms, if we have a healthy United Way, that means we have a healthy community. And so we focus in three particular areas that create a healthy community: early education, financial stability, and youth success. So we invest in programs and partners and initiatives that support the advancement of those three areas so that we have a healthy community.
Okay, is there a specific order, or do you kind of do that, cater to different areas within the communities you serve?
That's a great question, because we're very strategic and very targeted in these areas with our Alice families. And so this is information, this is data that we pull together every 2 years, and it's an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed. Okay. So these are families who are working really hard, but do not make enough and do not earn enough to be able to afford a basic household budget.
Okay, so they're sort of just stuck in the turnstile, almost like a leaf in a river that just can't get out of that turning water.
Absolutely. What we talk a lot about is that these families are one, car breakdown, one medical issue away from being thrown financially off course. Sure. So all of our programs really focus on supporting our Alice families and helping them to attain that financial stability for themselves, their families, and their future.
Sure. Now, when we're talking about the Alice families, approximately in this area, in your region, the Suncoast region, about how many people is that, or what's the makeup there? Are we talking about maybe a quarter of the Suncoast area? What does that look like?
For our region, it's 43%.
Wow.
Yes.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. I mean, whenever we talk about Alice families, people assume that it's a percentage that's much less than that, but it's not. And it's a number that keeps rising. So that data point is from 2018.
Oh my gosh.
So you can imagine what the impacts of the pandemic have had and what those numbers are going to look like when we renew them and we look again after all of our research is completed in 2022.
So that literally could be well over 50% by now, if I had to guess. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I feel like that's probably more accurate. So to give you at home a perspective on that, go to the grocery store. Half the people in that store, realistically, are one of these families that are one incident, no matter what that incident is, away from a dire situation for themselves and their family.
Absolutely. And we talk about the one incident, but then when we look at this past year, COVID was the tsunami that impacted all of these families in pretty devastating ways.
So how does the United Way look at that, since it is no longer the elephant in the room, it is the room itself?
Right.
how does the United Way look at an incident where you're already focused on these three core objectives to help these Alice families out? Now you have the tsunami, as you put it, wiping out families that maybe weren't even an Alice family to begin with, and now they've found themselves in this situation. How do you begin to tackle those issues, and have your three core objectives changed as a result?
Our core objectives have not changed, because if you look at the stability and the well-being of a family, of a human, these are probably three of the most important things that you could focus on. So, especially in a time of crisis, it's stabilizing the family, right? And then getting them the support and services that they need to have that stability more long term. And so we have many different programs and partners that help us to achieve that. So it is responding to a crisis and helping families through crisis. That is at the core of our mission and what we do. But then how do we create that sustainability and that financial security, that education supports and resources that they need for the long term?
For sure. And so how do you begin to do that? I would think that that's where it comes, you really rely on your community, the community itself, or at least community partners, if you will, to sort of help a family.
Absolutely.
Ultimately.
So we have over 70 nonprofit partners that we work with throughout the region, who help us to deliver programs and initiatives to support those three core areas. We also have programs that we do. Nothing we do is not through partnerships, but we also have programs that we take the lead on that are helping these families, such as, because we are just wrapping up tax season. So we have our VITA program, which is our Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, to help these families be able to file their taxes and receive the funds that they need, and making sure they're getting all of those tax refund benefits that they deserve. Sure. And then we also have other financial coaching and financial stability programs to help families, whether that be through transportation and helping them to get reliable and safe transportation. Other savings programs, getting them access to banking products through our Bank On initiative, to make sure that the underbanked or unbanked have the services and support they need to build that financial stability and foundation for themselves and their families.
Fantastic. So ultimately, where there's a need, you assess that need and figure out a way you become the resource, if at the very least become a resource center to direct this family and where they need to be and help them get all the assistance they can get. Now, I know you at home are probably wondering how you can get involved, or perhaps you have more questions, or you would just like to dive deeper into what the United Way Suncoast does. Well, that is the website that you're looking at right there. That's going to give you all the information that Jessica and I speak about today and have been speaking about today. Perhaps you yourself are in need of some assistance and think that the United Way Suncoast could give you some help. Well, by all means, check out the website. As a matter of fact, why don't you do that now while we go to break? Welcome back to Bayside. I'm your host, Shelley Sanders. We've been talking all about the United Way Suncoast with the CEO, Jessica Muroff. Now, Jessica, we were talking about all the different ways that you help out and assist financially speaking. And certainly with the onset of COVID, it created a whole new host of issues, in addition to a whole new host of families that are in need of the United Way. So there is somewhere in there, though, some silver lining, the fact that our community was able to step up and help out, and your community partners were able to do that. And just to brag on you just a little bit, you all really raised a phenomenal amount of money in 6 weeks. Tell me about this. Talk to me about that total. It was almost $2 million.
Yes,
that's incredible.
It is. Our community is wonderfully generous, especially at a time when so many individuals and family needed it the most. And we all remember last March when when quarantine was starting and we were transitioning to 100% virtual work environments. Right. At that same time, we immediately stood up a COVID-19 response and recovery fund. because we knew that our community was going to need the support and services and do so very quickly. 100% of those dollars raised went directly and immediately back out to our community. We supported more than 70 partners, 70 nonprofits partners to deliver important things like food to families, provide supports for housing and financial assistance, PPE to our nonprofit partners, childcare for essential workers, mental health supports through telemedicine. The list was endless. We helped almost 1 million families in our region last year through those funds. So it was very impactful.
That's incredible. So just to give us an idea of, okay, 1 million families just in your region, how big is that region?
So we cover 5 counties here in West Central Florida: Hillsborough, Pinellas, Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto.
So when you speak in numbers like million, you instantly, it kind of just falls on you like, okay, well, understandable. We're not talking the state of Florida, just here that you were able to do that, which is phenomenal. So I understand that you don't have like numbers back. You don't understand yet just the magnitude of the effects of COVID and what that's had. But what have you seen? Have your efforts been able to assist these people to get back into a regular routine of life, or where are you exactly? Kind of what's the temperature?
Absolutely. So a few things that I would say is from the more long-term impacts is we are worried and working hard on learning loss, right? So helping our families and their children, especially when they had to pivot to an e-learning environment. We quickly realized, which we already knew, but quickly realized the digital divide, right? From devices and access. So we immediately funded and supported initiatives that provided that access to families. The eviction crisis, families who were already struggling, and then this really pushed them over the edge, standing up supports and processes that help families to keep them in their homes, helping both the families and the small business owners who are the landlords to making sure that they had the funds for their businesses, but also supporting the families to have them stay. But then we've also pivoted our programs to be virtual. So our volunteer income tax assistance program, as we are starting to emerge from this crisis, we're going to have the biggest year ever of completing tax returns, of more than 7,000 tax returns prepared by our volunteers across our region, bringing millions back into the community to support these families.
Fantastic. It's just when you think, okay, we've got this tackled, then the ripple effects of another issue kind of rears its head, but you're doing such a fantastic job of staying on top of that. It's got to be overwhelming a little bit.
I often, the analogy that I use is that we're changing the tires on a car that's driving 65 miles down the road. Yes.
No big deal.
Right. I'm so proud of our team, but that's what United Way does. We show up when our communities need it the most, at the same time being that committed, stable partner to ensure that we can continue to offer those day-to-day services that none of us take for granted.
Sure. So with other programs that you have available, talk to me a little bit about that. So we've got, in addition to COVID-specific issues, what other programs do you have, and has that kind of taken a back burner to things, or are you still full functioning with those as well?
We are still full functioning with those as well. So even last year, in the height of the pandemic and quarantine, we were wrapping up our annual investment process, and we still successfully completed that on time and gave back out into our community over $7 million to support our initiatives among our 3 focus areas of early education, financial stability, and youth success. And our partners really needed that, especially when some of our partners were having to cancel fundraisers because we weren't able to get together. And pivoting to more virtual revenue opportunities, but they still needed the United Way support, and we were able to deliver that.
Fantastic. Big things. United Way Suncoast, they're doing it here in the Bay Area. This is your community we're talking about. You want more information? Perhaps you'd like to volunteer or help out, or you need some assistance, or you just like more information. By all means, log on to the website you're looking at right there. It's unitedwaysuncoast.org. I've got a pretty good idea. Why don't you go check it out while we go to break, because we're coming back to talk about the future. We'll be back. Welcome back to Bayside. I'm your host, Shelley Sanders. I've been speaking with Miss Jessica Muroff, the CEO of the United Way Suncoast. They're doing big things here in the Bay Area, and it doesn't get done without very special people,
Yes.
volunteers and donors and your community partners. Am I right in
That is
saying
right.
that?
Mm-hmm.
So that is a perfect opportunity. I mean, hello, hint, hint. I tell you guys every week to get out and get involved in your community. What better way to do that than to get involved with United Way Suncoast? So that being said, I want to get to what your visions are for the future, but you can't get to the future without things like community assistance. Talk to me about these gifts, phenomenal gifts that you have been given.
Yes, our region received a transformational opportunity from Mackenzie Scott through her incredible generosity of a $20 million unrestricted gift just last December.
Wow.
And we announced that publicly because we know that this is a community gift, and we're going to put those dollars to action in very intentional ways. We have a task force that's actually launching tomorrow to create a plan that we're going to be very transparent and public with, so that our region knows exactly what those dollars are going to do to improve our region and support families and individuals.
Fantastic. And it's coming back to the community,
That's
which
exactly
is
right.
wonderful.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
So with that being said, what is the vision for the future? Where do you see things happening, and what are you focused on?
So we are completely double downing on our three focus areas.
Right.
We just wrapped up a strategic planning process that included more than 1,000 stakeholders across the region to provide input. And so it is an incredible plan that speaks to really deepening our support in early education, financial stability, and youth success. Our neighborhood centers, where we provide very specific targeted support in specific neighborhoods, as well as supporting our nonprofit partners. So helping them with their data for impact, and helping them to collect data and how to utilize their data, and helping them to build their capacity building. And at the end of the day, throughout the entire plan, it is rooted in a focus on equity. How do we ensure that every person in our community is having access to the support and services that they need to have a stable, fulfilled life that it supports their well-being?
Well, I think that's very progressive. It's a beautiful thing when you can look at that and go, okay, here's the plan. It's one thing to have the plan and, okay, let's hope that it works, but actually put the focus on, is it working, and is everyone getting the opportunity to benefit from this?
That's exactly right. We have to be able to measure our impact. And, some of our partners are so invested in, and as they should be, in supporting our community. How can we take off some of the burden from them and support their data efforts so that they can report back on their results, so that we can see what's moving the needle and we can scale what's moving the needle, as well as ensuring that we are supporting those who need the resources and support the most, and making sure that we are looking at everything through an equity lens. Perfect.
I love that. You got to have some way to figure out whether it's working or not, right? Otherwise, it's fruitless.
That's exactly right.
And pointless at that.
Yes.
So for you at home, if you'd like more information about the United Way Suncoast, you're going to go to unitedwaysuncoast.org, that website that you're looking at right there. It's going to give you all the information and then some. Perhaps you'd like to volunteer, provide financial assistance. Perhaps you just want to check things out. Maybe you're unsure. This is where you're going to go. And by all means, if you know someone or you yourself maybe could use some assistance, by all means, go to this website. That's what they're there for, unitedwaysuncoast.org. Go check it out. We'll be back after this. As always, I want to thank you at home for joining us this week on Bayside. And of course, Jessica, thank you so much for coming. You'll have to keep coming back and giving us updates on how everything is going over there at the United Way Suncoast. Keep doing the big things you're doing. We're behind you all the way, giving you a pat on the back and a clap. All right, I encourage you at home to get out and get involved in your community every single week. You never know when you're going to be the one that needs assistance. If you're interested in volunteering, I cannot imagine a better place to start than the United Way Suncoast, doing big things here. 70 community nonprofit partners here. There's a ton of ways you can help out. Go check it out, unitedwaysuncoast.org. In the meantime, I'm Shelley Sanders. Have a great rest of your week.